Okay, can you make the attendees, oh, okay. I'll just welcome the attendees and then we'll get started.
You're actually live now, Kathy.
Okay, terrific. Okay, great. Zaxon, can you start can you share my webcam?
Yep.
Okay, terrific. Okay, good morning, everybody. I want to welcome the attendees who are here already. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have a number of attendees who have already come into the broadcast. Thanks so much for coming. Chris Messer, James, Joseph, Joyce, Mark, Mike, Sherry, and Rosanna. So thank you so much for joining us, and we're really appreciate you coming to the broadcast. We're really excited about it. So let's go ahead and start our broadcast here. Okay, welcome to Media Growth's webinar. We're really excited that you're here, and we're going to talk about mitigating event disruption. What's happened today in the crazy world that we're in is that so many things have changed. And so we have two excellent speakers here, Eric Burley and Brian Cutrud, who are going to be talking to us about some of the exciting things that are happening in their companies to be able to mitigate some of the difficulties that are happening. Everyone's had to cancel their events, and that has, created a great loss of revenue. So we're going to be learning some things today about how to mitigate those issues. So like everyone else, we've had to change our dates. Our dates are now October 12th to 14, 2020. So appreciate you saving those dates. We have excellent presenters who are going to be talking about some of the great things that are happening in the industry, and they'll be adapting to the new changes. So we're excited that this webinar is powered by MagHub. MagHub is a cloud-based smart CRM and publishing workflow system with an intuitive interface that's easy to deploy, use, and manage. And we've got Zach, their marketing manager, and Nick, their director of sales, who are going to be helping us with the technology and making sure that everything is going smoothly. So again, good morning and welcome. So now I want to introduce our great speakers who are going to be talking to us about some of the wonderful things that are happening in our industry. So Eric has served in a variety of roles at Bobbitt for 20 years. He leads the technology, media operations, customer success, research, data, engagement, and digital product teams. Eric is on the forefront of developing new ideas and strategic vision for all of Bobbitt, including events, digital, and print. He has created double-digit growth rates for his divisions for many years. So thank you, Eric, for joining us. He has spoken at Media Growth Summit for 2 years and was our MC last year, and I know he has great insights to share with us today. Then we have our second speaker is Brian Cuthbert, Group Vice President of Diversified Communications, and he has oversees a broad portfolio of market-leading conferences, trade shows, and digital products at Diversified Communication. Brand under his stewardship includes the Institute of Finance and Management, the Administrative Professionals Conference, Vinex New York, and the running event, as well as other publications. Brian has been responsible for the significant growth of the company's event portfolio and certification business. So Brian is also a very talented executive who will bring us some great insights. So we want to start with Eric Burley. So go ahead, Eric, and start your presentation.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Let me just get this set really quickly. All right. Yeah, I don't know if I can live up to exactly what Kathy said about talking about all the wonderful things going on in our industry, because I think, like all of you, there's a lot of not so wonderful things going on right now. But at the same time, I am seeing some incredible things take place within our company as we rise to the challenge of what is just becoming a big mountain that we have to climb in a very challenging environment. So I just want to share a couple of things as far as how we're dealing with this. Many of them will be things that you guys are doing on your end as well. And just to kind of lay the groundwork, we had 6 events that were in the at least the way we see it now impacted time frame. And so we are not using that bad word cancel. We're using the postpone word that I believe all of you guys are on board with. And 5 of the 6 we are postponing. And then 1 of them we are moving to a virtual event platform. And we haven't done virtual events before. We are very skeptical about them, but we'll see how this goes. We think it's the right move for this one particular industry. So as we get into this is much broader than just the events postponements or cancellations, I guess, impacting our businesses. Like you guys, we're tracking every day postponements of our media campaigns and cancellations of media campaigns, and wondering if those postponements are truly cancellations and trying to manage the business around that as well. So really, this has become much larger and much broader than just the idea of replacing event revenue. This is about maintaining revenue, both from the event side, but also maintaining revenue on the media side and trying to slow some of the bleed that we're seeing as well. So our focus right now, these are the 5 areas where we're focusing. First and foremost, immediately when we saw this coming, we did a hard pivot. And this sounds strange because our customers and our audiences are always first, but in a different and with a renewed intensity, we said, forget about selling right now. We are going to serve our audiences. We're going to serve these people who are to have so many unknowns they're facing as well. And that started with content. So serving our audiences and our marketing customers in their time of need. We're also focusing on telling our story like never before. Marketing is becoming such a bigger part of what we're doing, and it's becoming something that's rising to the forefront, whereas before it was something that was important, but we never had the time to do it properly. And then we're pivoting our sales strategy and messaging so that we're not tone deaf, but so that we're also fitting the needs and the new challenges that are arising in our industries and with our customers. And then we've rapidly been evolving our internal operations priorities and processes to fit this time. 6 months from now, we'll be operating differently, but for now, we are moving into a much different process. And then our goal is to come out the other side stronger. That doesn't mean that we're going to have the same revenue that we had last year. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have taken some huge hits, but the goal is to have a team and a mentality and the infrastructure so that on the other side of this, we really will have strengthened ourselves. So I'm going to dive into a few of these things. Just first off, what we're doing to serve our audiences and customers in time of need. We'll start with audiences. Immediately, we moved to creating COVID resource centers on our websites. So 2 things here. We felt like we wanted to be the best and the first in our industries with content related to the crisis. And so we were going to create a center that would have everything that could help our users all aggregated in one spot so that they weren't searching around. So that includes any webinars that we're doing, all the content that we're doing, downloadable resources, everything's in one spot. And we were able to get the dev team on doing that immediately. Kind of our phase 2 that's rolling out this week are what we call data centers. So we have COVID data centers that we're doing every other week, pulse surveys, so sentiment and trending surveys throughout every one of our industries. So we aligned all our content teams and gave them a plan and then said, here's how you're going to work it. And so every other week, these surveys are constantly live. Once one closes, the next one opens. And then we've created a center on our website that is going to house all this information. We'll have some of it lightly gated, but a lot of it is open and ungated. That is just going to tell the story over time from a benchmarking and a sentiment standpoint within our industries. And we tied this into our Domo system so that people can really dive into the data and understand what's going on. Now, first and foremost, this serves our audiences with understanding their environment and what's going on, both of these things, the content centers and the data centers. But second off, I know For most of our industries, maybe you guys are facing a similar situation. For the last 3 weeks, it's been hard to go out and just sell what we currently have outside of a few solutions. You have to tread lightly. We were going after our larger partners who had money to spend, who weren't in a cash crunch, and who wanted to do something good for the industry. So this was altruistic in nature, but they want to align their brands with helping the industry at this time. So that's where these two sponsorship opportunities came about. Is, hey, let's create something where it's not necessarily hardcore lead gen at all. It's not just pure branding. This is something where we can get some solid revenue coming in aligned with helping the industry. And these have been very successful in the way that we're selling them. Next thing, just a couple other things that we've been doing in various brands, because all of our industries are different. So in some of our brands, we've created these document download centers. So if you look on the left here of your screen, you'll see that we went out and we created an area where public fleets can go in and share documents and policies and procedures and manuals, so that you're not recreating the wheel. And then we're putting those out to our audience so that they understand there's resources for them to deal with. How do you disinfect your vehicles, your EMS vehicles out there? Okay, well, here's a policy, here's a manual, here's what we're doing. And this has been an area that's very popular. Flipping completely over to our beauty side of the house, they're all over social media doing, Zoom, basically interviews, where every day they're basically going to a thought leader in the industry and talking about what's going on and how things are progressing as salons are being shut down. So again, serve the industry. Don't worry about the revenue. First and foremost, at least for those first 2 weeks, that was our hard pivot, because we believe on the other end, if we served our industry well, it is going to make us stronger. And we are seeing much higher engagement right now, like I'm sure a lot of you are, but we want to be the trusted source for our audience. So pulled out all the stops, told our editors, don't spend as much time focusing on the print. Print is not the solution at this time to serve your audience in a timely manner. There's a lot of people obviously who aren't even in their offices, so they're not going to receive it. So we did a hard pivot, and it's been a really good thing to see how well our team has adopted to just serving the audience. The biggest way, and this is the simplest way, and I think what a lot of you are doing, we said we are going to be the first and the best with webinars. Don't worry about a sponsorship right away. Go out, and sometimes within 24 hours, we're turning around a webinar from concept to having the thing rolled out. And now we're finally getting to a point where we can kind of stretch it out to, in every single industry, we're doing a minimum of 1 webinar per week. And like you, we're seeing huge engagement. Our average is around 1,000 attendees, whereas before we were probably averaging 150 to 175 for a webinar. We're at 1,000. We've had as high as 4,000 registrants, and we're seeing 60+% attendance rates. And now we're seeing that the sponsorships are coming in. These have there's a huge appetite. We have well over 6 figures in sales on our webinars just over the last 2 weeks. And again, mandate in the company, every other week at the minimum, you're going to put on a webinar, whether it's sponsored or not. That's up to the sales team, but the sponsorships are starting to roll in. This has put a huge burden on our internal team to go from a pace of maybe 5 webinars a week to where you may be putting on 10 to 12 webinars a week across the company. So we've been cross-training and basically filling in the gaps anywhere we can to make this happen. Second thing I just wanted to share, and I have one of these for pretty much every one of our industries. I had our teams add a question to our webinar registrations, and when people sign up, what solutions is your business continuing to research to help solve challenges presented by the current environment? And then we put kind of our common categories within each of the segments. And if you look, driver safety and monitoring technology, that's kind of a given. People are still researching solutions in our industries. This has been very powerful to help our sales team tell a story that people aren't completely shutting down at this point. They are still doing research. They're still out there. Yeah, the buying cycle may lengthen a little bit, but there is still buying going on. So with that, telling our story like never before, renewed focus on marketing. What have we been doing? For the first couple of weeks, we told sales, just call your customers. Don't even think about talking about selling anything. Just call them and ask them how they're doing. Stay in communication with them. And then out of that, we had several sales opportunities come up because we had clients saying, all my events are canceled. I still need leads to fill the pipeline. What do you have? What else could we do? Sure, there were a lot of people who were just, we don't know what to do, and there wasn't a huge amount of business that came out of that, but that wasn't the time to go hard. Over the last week, we were preparing in the background over those 2 weeks to come out hard with a message to start telling us our marketing story like never before. And so I'll get into that just a little bit. One of the things that we've rolled out is a limited time marketing packages. Basically, we're saying you have an immediate need right now, and we're going to serve it. So within each of our industries, we crafted an email from our publishers that's actually going to go out this week because we feel the timing's right now, that's empathetic, but then also acknowledging the fact that they still have goals. So we package those goals into lead generation, product marketing, thought leadership, storytelling, and then brand building and awareness, and took our most popular programs, packaged some of them together that we felt would really work over this time period, and then we threw on discounts, which we rarely discount these types of digital solutions, and then put them out to the market so that we arm them where there is money, go chase it, and we want to start getting back to at least saying, we're a partner here for you. If you have a need, when the time is right, we're ready for you. So this is something that that we've already seen these packages have some good adoption rates. And now with this publisher letter, which we'll send out, and then we're going to do a drip campaign with those who engage with that. You know, if they click on the lead generation, then we're going to do a little more of a lead generation campaign that allows them to see more of our lead gen solutions in more detail, which gets into, we've had the time to revisit our marketing over the last 3 weeks and re-emphasize it. Our marketing teams weren't as focused after we got the events postponed on our events side. So we turned back to internally, let's tell the story of our core lead gen solutions, which we call lead stream, and arm our team with the materials they need to sell that. Our webinars, we repackaged them as well. These are the things that we have a lot of engagement still with. I don't know about all of you, but it's hard to sell a print ad right now. But our lead gen retention is there. In our brands who are late adopters, they're struggling. They're more reliant on print. They haven't been telling the story as well. And right now, they have more attrition going on. Whereas our brands, where lead gen and the digital and the measurable have been more at the heart and soul of what they sell, the retention is much, much stronger right now. So what we're trying to do is in across the whole company, tell the story in a way that we haven't in the past. And even in our kind of late adopting brands, they're being forced now to not rely on, well, my market isn't ready for that. Yes, they are. So the excuses are leaving. Pivoting our sales strategy and messaging, I think a lot of you are doing very similar things. So we kind of talked about that a little bit, but just want to talk again about lead gen. We have been diversifying our lead gen solutions because they have the most retention. So we have a solution called ReadyQuote, which is basically a lead aggregation program where we use everything from search to social to our own platforms to identify people with buying intent. And then they specifically request a quote for some sort of technological solution. We have seen huge demand. We've actually been signing customers up for this program along with some of our other lead gen programs, but this one especially, to the point of where we're actually sold out on it for the next 4 or 5 months. So there is still demand. The nice thing about this program is we literally have 500 plus leads coming in per category every month, and I can see the mix and makeup. So I'm able to tell my audience, look, the SMBs right now, the small and medium-sized businesses, yes, they're starting to tail off, but mid and large size enterprise companies, they're still highly engaged in searching for solutions and requesting quotes for solutions. So we do have things we can sell. We still have an audience that is looking to do research. And I think we should be telling that story in a powerful way because it's legit, it's true. While we struggle on the print side and we may struggle on the branding side, really the lead gen side is where we can hang our hat right now. And then we're focusing, again, a lot of this isn't, hey, we're gonna grow our revenue with our events moving. No, that's not what it is. So what are we preparing for? We're preparing to tell our story and reposition ourselves in all of our industries so that we come out on the other side and people understand what we can do for them. That we're not just print, we're not just banners, we're not just emails, we're not just basic. So AIM is our, it's our targeting buyer intent program. This is what powers everything. Our CDP has been built for years now to build out these targeted campaigns. So we are telling the story and we're seeing retention with these campaigns. These are campaigns where we're doing mainly behavioral targeting, based on content consumption, with some demographic, some ABM, some account-based marketing if they really want it, but highly targeted, focused, buyer intent oriented influence programs. That's where we're seeing retention again. So again, this isn't as much about growth and rapid growth right now. We're focused on retention, lead gen, and these highly targeted buyer intent programs, they're keeping the retention. So evolving our internal operations priorities and processes. This is just a quick note to say we've gone lean. We took our whole dev team and we moved out of the Scrum process and we're in Scrum Band now, which, if you want to email me afterwards, we can talk about what that looks like. I can even get you in touch with our VP of Tech. Immediately, we said Scrum does not work in this environment. Same with our operations team. We said, throw all the processes out right now that are impeding us and go lean, build it quick. Don't build for 2 years from now, build for the next few months. Operate in a kind of a triage mode. And it's been amazing to see the excitement from our team, the pace, in spite of very difficult things going on in the environment, in our industries, and even within the company, we have a very motivated team right now. And the communication, moving more to Teams, or if you have Slack, which we were on before, we're seeing our older, more experienced team members hopping on and getting involved in teams in ways that they didn't before, and communicating and collaborating. So this is where I'm the most excited right now. We can't keep up the pace of what we're doing right now and be sustainable, but for now, we've given a vision. We carried out that vision in a very rapid way, and our teams are jumping on board and excited about the way we're serving our customers and our audiences. So that's really where, on the other side of this, where my hope lies. We can look and see a lot of unknowns, a lot of things that can be discouraging. I'm sure you guys are riding that roller coaster as well. But at the same time, when I look at the things that are going on within the company and I look at what we've built and that the reasoning behind them is sound and that our customers are coming and engaging with them, it gives me great hope that we are going to come out a different company on the other side, but in many ways a better and stronger company on the other side from an internal standpoint. So that's all I wanted to share. I don't know if you want to do questions now, Kathy, or we can wait till the end.
Who has questions? Go ahead and post them in chat, and then we'll talk about the questions right now. So Eric, thanks so much for your presentation. It was excellent. And Eric, let me know a little bit more about some of the things that you're doing over at Bobbit. It sounds like you're doing a lot of things to engage your customers and to be able to bring them in and to have them, be engaged and to do some lead gen. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everything we've been doing over the last 3 weeks has been focused on our audience and the content. So earning their trust, their loyalty for the long haul. And so that's long game, what we all have been wanting to do. We've just been able to see an opportunity. I hate to use that word opportunity in this environment, but it's been an opportunity to help in a way where there's a greater need right now, there's greater intensity. So I know that you know, as coming from a sales background, I'm a business development guy at heart. It was the right thing to do, and everyone knew it was the right thing to do. And so we did not have a huge focus on sales during that time, other than I was working with our customer success team, who is amazing, and I was working with our marketing team to build out the plan and the messaging for what we were going to do once we saw things open up a little bit, where people were going to be looking to get back to business. And we're still in the midst of that. Depending on your industry, depending on, you know, your company, we're transitioning that way. So now it's a matter of, we're going to hit hard with the lower cost packages, tell the story of webinars, tell the story of our COVID data centers. And that's really where we see a huge opportunity over the next, you know, 2 to 3 months. And we're probably not going to be signing a whole lot of, you know, 6-figure programs that have a huge vision toward the future right now. We're trying to work with our customers to get them to retain. And that's where the reality, at least for us, is probably 90% focused on retention and 10% focused on where do we have opportunities for growth. And we still are having conversations. We're having sales contracts come in daily. I think, you know, we had our first day ever over the last few weeks where we had one day where we didn't have one contract come in, and that was you know, something that was crazy. But we're still having people pay. You know, we're checking the cash flow and making sure we're still having people pay. It's not at the same pace, but right now that is where our focus is. Just a word on virtual events. We haven't chosen a platform yet, but we have, in our salon industry, we have decided to move one of our events in the fall to a virtual event. And we don't have the platform defined yet or exactly what the packages are. I'm just highly skeptical of the events. I just am. I have never wanted to take a day out or a half day or 2 days out and go kind of recreate what is special about an in-person experience and try to recreate it online. I think there's virtual things you can do with webinars or social communities or things like that, where you can get some of the feel, and that's what we're going to try to accomplish. But we have some skepticism going into it. So any of you have great success stories, we'd love to hear them, because we haven't heard all that many on virtual events at this point.
Yeah, virtual events are very difficult. Everybody's doing virtual events, but you know, they're tough to do. So yeah, anybody's had success with virtual events, please, you know, put that in the chat and the questions tab, and we'll go ahead and ask Eric for that. Eric, thanks. That was a terrific presentation. One more question. You said you've got 1,000 attendees and sometimes even 4,000 attendees to your webinars. So how do you promote them to get so many people to come and learn from your webinars?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same methods, but maybe a little bit more intensity on the social side right now. You know, LinkedIn, at least in most of our industries, is pretty strong. On the beauty side, Facebook and Instagram are very strong. It's still, you know, 80% are coming in through email. So we're doing, you know, 2 emails within a 48-hour period of time and just getting masses of people signing up. So nothing extremely groundbreaking, other than we're relying on social a little bit more. And, you know, editorial, they're very involved as well. We're have a lot of engagement with those COVID centers, so we're making sure that we have an editorial write up on those as well. The one other thing we're doing there is we're pulling out all the vendors, suppliers who are in our webinars, and we're feeding those over to our sales teams as well, so that they understand you have suppliers and prospects who are showing that they think you're a reliable source and a valuable source. And if you're not working with them, this gives you some insight into some prospects. If you are working with them, it helps reinforce the idea that they think we're valuable. So that's just one little tip that may be helpful.
Great. So we've had some questions come in, Eric. How are you driving action in sales teams who are changing?
Yeah, that's our customer success team is really it. I work through them, and then they work directly with our publishers and sales teams. That's been the biggest change. And honestly, um, before this all hit, we were looking at adding more members to that team. We have 3 right now that are broken out and kind of specialized within areas of the companies. They, through this crisis, have taken on a mantle of, we're going to go, and instead of just being deferential now, they are going and giving plans to publishers where I think some of them may have some questions or may not know exactly how to handle it. We decided to centralize, build out a plan, and then have them carry it out. And so they've been huge. And Chantel Guerrera and Andrew Brewster and Becky May are our 3 customer success managers. Absolutely incredible at what they do, and have made 7-figure impacts on the company that we've been able to measure over the last year. So that's what we do. And then I have on my team an engagement editor who works with our content team and kind of does the same thing. We're looking for innovative thought leaders who understand our business and understand technology. So customer success works with sales and publishers, and then our engagement editor works with our content team. Again, we laid out a plan, cast the vision, that here's what we're going to build, here's what we need you to do, and then Lance Holt, our engagement editor, carries that out and makes sure that we're coordinated with those teams. So that has worked really well. Instead of relying on each publisher to just top down decide and go off in a direction that they feel would be best, we're having a corporate wide direction for the most part, and then yes, they can fit it into what's best for their industry. They can do other things that are industry specific, but overall our tactic during this crisis has been, here's what we're going to build, here's what we're going to do from a sales standpoint, we'll cater it slightly, but go and run with it.
Great, thank you, Eric. A couple more questions. That one's from Mariah, and these 2 are from Jeff Black. Are you shifting upcoming print to digital only because your print ads aren't as good as they were? And what cost saving strategies have you implemented to get through these times?
Yeah, I mean, we've done, I'm not going to get into the specifics online with this, but manufacturing, we've definitely made changes on the manufacturing side. Honestly, there's going to be some of our industries where this may be the transition that was going to be a slow death of print that now is going to be sped up. I don't know. We have to see how long this goes on, but we are seeing some industries where honestly they were lagging a little bit on telling the right story, and they're suffering for it right now. Some of it's industry, things that are going on in the industries as well. But we might see print go away in some of those brands and become digital and event only in those areas, which I'm comfortable with in certain areas, and we've already done that with certain brands. So yeah, I mean, manufacturing, we've had to make internal changes from a resources standpoint as well. I mean, these are tough times for everyone who's private equity owned. You guys know, especially what tough times can be when you're leveraged, and a lot of us are leveraged now, and so cash flow becomes an issue, and we're actively managing that. It's not so much that right now that print's just bad. It's just not timely. It's not timely, and in most of our industries, it's not going to get to people. So we've been bumping up our digital editions and basically sending digital editions out everywhere. We are looking at industries where we have 2 issues and a special issue, or an issue in a month and a special issue. We're polybagging them together and sending them out instead of sending them out with separate distribution. There may be some issues if we will not send out an issue that doesn't make money. So if we see a point where the hard costs aren't justified, we will go ahead and just say we're not going to run with that issue. We'll do a digital only version of it and work with our marketing partners to develop an added value campaign from a digital standpoint around that. So if you're seeing demand for print right now, man, I'm envious. At least right now, we're seeing a lot of postponements where people are saying, the next 2 to 3 months, we definitely don't want to be in print. One other thing, and then I just wanted to hit this. We are intensifying sales training. We went to weekly now with our sales training. We wanted to have more communication. So we were at monthly before. And then we went to bi-weekly maybe 4 months ago. Now we're at weekly with the whole team. And then we're going to near daily, where the customer success managers and I are working with various teams as we move really quickly. Yeah, we're breaking some things. Yeah, we're moving too fast in some areas, but we'd rather do that than be late to market with some of these ideas.
Great, great. Thank you, Eric. That was excellent. And we'll take more questions for Eric at the end of the presentations. So now I want to turn it over to Brian. Thanks, Brian, thanks so much. That was excellent, Eric. Lots of great ideas that that you shared, and we really appreciate that. I'm sure the people in the audience really appreciate it. Lots of good ideas to be able to overcome some of the difficulties that are happening in our industry right now. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Brian.
Great, thanks, Kathy. And Eric, that was a fantastic presentation. A lot of the same challenges in our businesses, and I don't have any good news on the print side from here either. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Cuthbert. My background has been largely in niche information businesses, running conferences. For the past 7 years, I've worked at Diversified Communications. For those of you who don't know Diversified Communications, we are a global trade show and conference producer. We run events all over the world in a variety of industries. And for us, it has obviously been a very challenging year to date, and is going to continue to be so. Like Eric mentioned, we are postponing events across the portfolio globally. The next event, in my portfolio, our next event isn't going to take place, or scheduled to take place, until late July. So my world at Diversified is around a portfolio across a variety of industries and functional areas. So fortunately for us, in some of the markets we serve, we lead with an information need. So for training businesses and the conference businesses, people are coming to us as the information source. And so that has sort of allowed us to not be completely reliant on the event side of the business. In other markets that we're in, it's really the event is the core piece of the business. And so what we've been looking at, and Eric touched on this, and for us, it's around looking at each of the different markets that we serve and thinking about the community. And so we are in everything from accounting. We are supporting administrative professionals and executive assistants, specialty run stores. We run a large trade show in the running space on a B2B. All our events are B2B. We're in the solar space. We run a B2B wine event. It really runs the gamut. The one common thread is looking at your markets and really understanding and appreciating the community that you're serving. And right now, every community that we are serving is struggling and is hurting. And whether it's the practitioners, so the attendees to your events, the consumers of the content, whether it's the exhibiting companies, in our case, many of it is technology, exhibitors, everyone's hurting right now. And so what we've really tried to take a look at is how can we best support the community during this time with a long-term view to the health of each of those businesses. And so that's been a priority for us. You know, Eric touched on it, very similar approaches in terms of we're not selling. When this first started, as it was developing, there were the touch points of how can I help? How are you doing? And we'll go through some of the things that we're doing, and some of the things that we're running right now are making money, have been making money, and will continue to for us. And others we're doing, they're not making any money, and we're simply doing it like while you're on this webinar today. It's about feeling part of something. It's about feeling part of a community. It's about talking to people going through the same challenges you are and trying to hear what's going on and how they can help. So for us, as first and foremost, our primary business is in the event space. We've postponed, just in my portfolio, 4 events, postponed events are going to struggle. And in some cases, it's really not going to be pretty. We see it both on the attendee side and the exhibitor side. There is no crystal ball right now. When we go into a recession, and it's just a recession that we're dealing with, we sort of know the timeline, right? We're going to get into the recession at this point. We know where the light at the end of the tunnel is. One of the many challenges with what we're all dealing with right now is that level of uncertainty as to when will things get better? When will it be okay to run an event again? When will it be okay to gather people in a convention center? And right now, so many convention centers are being used as hospitals. When will it be okay to try and bring people to areas that are considered hot zones? When will certain countries be able to travel? When will, even if every restriction is lifted, when will people want to get on a plane as their option? And so we feel with postponed events, we're going to see the struggle in the markets that I'm serving. That's where I'm focusing on. We see some of those events will struggle heavily. For our fall events, which have not been postponed but are on the calendar, my expectation is they're going to be smaller. I don't really doubt that on any of the events that we're going to have. The question is, by how much? So it's trying to take a long game on this. It's understanding it's going to be a rough year. How do you mitigate that the best you can? How do you, for our postponed events, our priority was, okay, let's move the money, right? If people have paid us and we have cash in hand, how do we work closely with our customers as partners to try and help them move the money into value adds? What is it? Is it about lead gen for them? Is it about moving them into a future show this year or next year? On attendee revenue, the same idea. Really working closely with our customers. In our case, trying to just really ensure if we have payments in hand that we can be flexible with them to move that money to something that works for them, whether it's in the same product line. So it's an event that'll run in July this year or July next year, and maybe they want to do the year after, great, or a training product in the same portfolio. Maybe they want to get certified instead of attending the event. Maybe they want to become a member and pay that fee. So really trying to be flexible, listen to the pain points, and then where the cases happen, and they are happening a lot, those refund requests we are honoring when people need them. And right now, and I'm sure you're all dealing with it with a lot of your customers, they need the refunds because a lot of them are just looking to get cash in hand to try and pay their bills to keep the business moving. So how do you understand the need when you start with a postponement? You're in this situation right now. You know, you always go back to the sort of core, right? The core of any business that we have is our community. It is the lifeblood of everything that we do. We have to satisfy and meet the need and do more than that. So what are you doing to keep them engaged? And how are you working to make sure you're top of mind without being aggressive? You're top of mind to show value, that they see you as a trusted resource and someone that is there for them. And right now, that is so much of what we can do. That's for the community aspect of it. Now, for the exhibitors and sponsors, the need hasn't changed dramatically, right? Those pipelines are bone dry in many cases. And for those exhibitors and sponsors who rely on in-person events as the core of their pipeline, and there are a number of them that certainly do, and if it's not the core of it, it's a key part. So they need leads. And what are you doing, and how can you create targeted demand generation offerings? How do you adjust or modify the ones that you have today? What can you create? How flexible do you need to be in what that model is, whether it's the price point, whether it's the deliverable, in order to satisfy that? So we have two options with when we look at our events. Where, to me, and we'll start with virtual trade shows, they have been around. I remember running one of these years ago. and they've never gained much traction in the marketplace. So for me, I think virtual trade shows can serve a purpose, but you have to decide who are you trying to make happy. So when I look at virtual trade shows today, in the environment that we're in, I look at them as either satisfying the vendors on a demand generation approach, which is not easy because remember, they sign up for these virtual trade shows. You still got to navigate them once they get into that environment, move to the booths, capture the information that way. Or are you trying to satisfy the need of your attendees, people who were coming to your event to gain content, to find networking opportunities, to learn from each other? I've only found you can satisfy one of those needs, and I have yet to really be able to meaningfully deliver value to the vendors in this model. I think your best bet on it is truly using the environment to try and deliver all the content in one place. And I candidly think there are better ways to do that. The platforms that are out there, prices have just been dropping over the years, where they used to be $30,000 or $40,000, which when I think about it now is staggering. We just used vFairs for one of these a year and a half ago in change for a market that we were trying to figure out what to do, trying to test out an idea. And I think the platform, all our costs were under $10,000. Live streaming for your existing events. We look at some of our events that have keynotes that are a key driver of people attending. They love that content. You can live stream, run your event as is, and then live stream the keynotes. There are going to be people at the end of the day who will still want what your show delivered, but are not going to want to get on a plane to go there, or they're not going to want to drive to go there and be around 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people. So we have to think creatively about how can I complement an existing event. Our plan is to run all these events in my portfolio. So what are we thinking about to try and complement it to give people more reason to say yes, to stay with us? So live streaming is a great option. We look at recording all sessions for access post-event. Now, there are different groups you can work with who can do this. We look at it as my conferences will run 50 to 70 sessions. People will pay an average price point, depending on the event, $1,500 to $2,000 to attend. There's the experiential piece, obviously, with it as well. But we're looking in our markets to record all the sessions. People will stay as a paid attendee. Maybe they don't attend, or maybe they do. And then this way, they can actually access all of the content regardless. Now, what they're missing would be obviously the networking, and we're trying to think through those kinds of ideas, leveraging Zoom and some other things to bring video in. This can also be separate revenue potential. There is a segment of your market, if you're running conferences, who just won't go to the in-person show. They may not ever be able to travel. They may not be able to get out of the office. But if we bundle these sessions, can we generate revenue for them post-event, obviously at a different price point? And we're working through that and looking to go out with that for some of our fall events in particular, because I think thinking about these kinds of complementary ideas to your events shouldn't just be for the postponed events. For this year in particular, you may really need to think about them for your regularly scheduled events that you don't make a change to, as well as your postponed. And see how it works. Then you may decide this is something you actually want to keep moving and keep going with. So those ideas all should have and will have revenue implications. Now, the community piece of this, interestingly, one of the things we're doing is around this virtual town hall idea. So we're really using Zoom for this. And you can have Zoom. I mean, we have a business license. You add on the large group meetings, and I can get an additional 500 people can be in one of these at a time. And so what we've been doing in our running space on the B2B idea We're running these weekly. So the attendees in that market run small businesses, and they are obviously, most of them shut down right now. They've had to let go of their staff. They are struggling to figure out what the new legislation means for them. They're trying to connect with each other to see what their plans are, how they're dealing with this, how are they dealing with the staff. So we're running these virtual town halls weekly, free for any of our audience to attend. Our editor is moderating it. We're bringing in different experts. We had a CPA on last week who could talk about the new legislation, talking about something now, how you can do virtual fittings, and going through that today. So just trying to bring the group and the community together in different ways and give people these options. And, we're running these, never having done them before, 75 to 125 people. And it's been great. The feedback has been fantastic. Nobody's trying to sell anyone anything. We're just trying to give people a forum to talk about what they're going through and hear from each other. And it's a dedicated hour. Our model has not been to monetize these and won't be for a bit because we've got to build some traction. But if it works, if people like them, as things come back to normal, we see the potential for this longer term as a really good community engagement idea that can also be monetized. The virtual roundtable idea should be sponsored. So in a number of our events, we work very closely with our partners, understanding the type of content that matters for them to qualify a lead, understanding the type of attendee they need to meet with, thinking that sort of hosted buyer way. I want to meet the right people who can make a decision and are ready for the solution I have. And so this virtual roundtable model, where we normally do it and bring 12 people together in a room, we have a sponsor, we bring our editor. The sponsor is only contributing to the conversation. There is no pitch, there is no slide deck for them. And it's 60 to 90 minutes. We can do the same thing virtually. We can run it as a Zoom. You can do it through WebEx, whatever the platform you want to use is, and then have that sponsor, they're underwriting the event. It's free for others to attend, and they're getting the leads after the event. And we're finding some success with that. Again, this is an idea that's out in the market right now for our in-person events where our vendors are coming back to us and they're just not going to be involved in-person events through the summer, possibly through the end of the year. As we look to ways to reallocate that money, as we look to ways for them, if they're not in a massive marketing cut, and some of them unfortunately are, some still aren't, this is a means to try and get them to get qualified leads as best we can. Other ideas that we're doing, we've always been doing white papers and webinars in most of our markets. Many of our markets will run at least 1 or 2 webinars a month. They continue to be a solid performer. On average, we're getting 250 registrations. In one of the markets that we serve, what's typically 200 to 300 registrations turn to 2,000. People still need the content, still want to consume it, still have an information need. And we're finding that sponsors who are still engaged and moving are looking at webinars as a very viable option to start to feed that funnel. Webinar leads aren't always the most targeted, and you need to have that conversation and make sure that you're prefacing that with your sponsors. But you can get the quality, you can get the quantity. In many cases, if you try and target that topic, you can get the quality. White papers, custom research, think about doing surveys of your audience, get it sponsored, have that sponsor work with you to understand their need, who they're trying to reach, and then create a white paper research report out of it, guarantee a specific number of leads, and then based on what you typically can get for a cost per lead, model your pricing out accordingly. Looking at how can you promote existing vendor assets content with lead guarantees, leveraging our own channels, whether it's social, email pushes, whatever it might be. Podcasts, we've never really monetized effectively, to be perfectly honest with you. I see them as a nice touch point. The town halls are essentially in some ways a version of that, but thinking about that in some of the markets, you'll be able to monetize that differently as well. The overarching message for me in this is I've come with a sales background. I come with a product development background. We have to sell our way out of this ultimately, right? And the only way we're going to be able to get out of it is remember the communities that we're serving, remember why we exist for them, remember what we're there to support, and try and think of ways to create and adjust your products that meet their needs and support them, but also understand the environment that we're in, and that in these markets, we're also still trying to find ways to deliver value, to generate revenue. These are tough times, and I don't think any of us have the perfect answer. So we're all trying to throw a lot against the wall and see what sticks. And I think just stay true to your mission, true to who your customers are, and true to the values as a business. And, at some point we will get through this, we will move forward. But I think, like Eric had said, the businesses and some of these products and markets that we serve, they're going to evolve. They're going to be different. And what that looks like, none of us really know. So I really appreciate the time, appreciate you listening. I am always happy to chat. Feel free to message me at any point in any way. Give me a buzz. We're all in the same boat here. So I appreciate the time, appreciate you listening, and I'll turn things back over.
Great, Brian. That was excellent. I really appreciate both your and Eric's presentations. You did a really good job, and thanks for all that you've given to the B2B Media community. We have a number of questions here that I'd like for our panelists to answer. So Mike Lessiter asks, Eric, if you made the decision not to send a print issue out and instead just send it digitally, how do you handle that with the advertisers?
Yeah, we haven't crossed that bridge yet, but I could see it happening in the coming weeks, and we're going to be as upfront as possible. So before we do that, we will let them know that we are enhancing the digital distribution. So of the digital edition, we'll definitely be doing that. And then we would come up with a package, probably a 2 to 3 month digital package, where we take some of our good but inventory that has demand available, especially in this environment, and package up something to say, you're going to get, in addition to being in the digital edition, you're going to get a banner for 2 or 3 months on the email newsletter, and maybe you'll get a single e-promo to a target of 5,000. We will develop a retention package around that. I mean, that's some of what we're looking at doing with certain events. On our end, the events right now, the retention is solid on both the attendee and the exhibitor side. For the most part, we probably had 2.5% maybe of what we call the screamers who are saying, give me my money. So it's a very small percentage. Same with the attendees, and this is just a side note, we're developing retention packages for them as well, where they're going to get access to exclusive roundtables, virtual summits like Brian was talking about. They're going to get access to certain communities that we're building. We're looking into building social communities that are really closed for certain industries. So they'll have some exclusivity as long as they retain their registration to carry them through over the next 6 months until the event happens.
Great, thank you very much, Eric. Another question from John Pritchard. For both speakers, how are hotels treating you about postponing and canceling your events? Are they waiving fees for you?
So I'm happy to just give you a quick on that. I think the short answer is certainly depends on the hotel and the partner that you have. John, we use Experian for all our hotel-based contracts. So Experian negotiates all of that for us. It helps us. We find, even though we run a number of events that are hotel-based, they have even more leverage, which especially now is helpful because their terms around things like force majeure and others have been really helpful. So we have had most of the venue partners be very accommodating, willing to work with us. We're understanding that they're getting slammed, but most of them have been willing to work with us with ease, and in some cases have been willing to even reduce room blocks, F&B, those kinds of things. The more accommodating tend to be the family of brands, whether it's working with a Marriott or someone else, where we do a lot of business with. Disney's been a good partner of us for years as well. And then there's occasionally a hotel, particularly the independently owned guys, who can be a bit trickier, a bit snarlier, not agree with necessarily our interpretation of things. And so it really depends. We find that the big brands that are not franchised in dealing with hotels have been good partners to work with.
Yeah, I'll just follow up and say same thing from our end. I think before there were basically mandates in place that said you can't hold events, there was some question marks, but once those went into place, the hotels literally were not able to, they couldn't even have our event take place, or the convention center couldn't have the event take place. So that has not been an issue for us. We've been able to navigate that.
Great, thank you very much, Eric and Brian, both. So we have another question, is if we're doing a preview virtual events for a live event that's been postponed and recorded sessions, do we release the recordings post-virtual? So Brian and Eric, can you address that question?
I didn't hear the last part. What was, do you release it when?
Okay, if we're doing a preview virtual event for a live event that has been postponed and recording sessions, do we release the recordings post-virtual?
Oh, interesting. Eric, do you want to go on that?
Hey, I've already said I haven't done a virtual event, so anything I say.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I mean, I think that's a strategic discussion for you to have as far as, okay, is that going to be something you're going to put behind a paywall? Is that something you're going to put at least gate? I would not, for me, I don't want to give that content out without at least having something that you can monetize down the line. I know we're all worried about cannibalizing content for the event down the line, because we've looked at that. Maybe we do a virtual event now and then have the live event later, and it's kind of a feeder. We're just not going to get into that. So I would look at figuring out some way of having monetization if you were going to take that content and distribute it afterwards.
Yeah, agreed 100% on that. I think it's, if you want to take a piece of content, a session or two, bundle it, use it however you want, maybe as a teaser to get people for the future year show, I think that's fine. I think we're going to be very conscious of ensuring that that content is only accessed by the people who had paid to attend that show and maybe didn't go live, or pay something to access it after. I think beyond just doing on a one-off or two-off kinds of sessions as teasers, I would be very cautious about getting that out too broadly. That's always been a concern. It's just always been a concern for me.
Good, thank you, Eric and Brian. So are there other questions from the audience? Go ahead and post them in the questions or the chat area. So one question I have is, you both have shared great ideas. It's been a challenging world these days. So, could you elaborate, Brian, a little bit more on some of the things that you're doing over there at Diversified Communications? You gave a lot of great examples and, about a lot of different things about how you're doing your events and some of the things that you're happening with the virtual roundtables. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the virtual roundtables.
Yeah, I think the idea with the virtual roundtable, right, is you start that concept with, for us, it's working with our partners to understand their challenges. So we work with a lot of technology companies. Their technology solutions will help address a business need, particularly in the accounting space. So we work with them to try and understand, what are they trying to get across? What's the value of what they're doing? How do they work with their customers? And we know our markets. Our editors know our markets really well. And editorial sales and marketing have to be aligned at the hip more than ever right now in order for us to be effective. And so our editors will then work up a topic idea and an abstract, and we'll work with that vendor to get that finalized, understand who we're trying to specifically target. Some technology companies only want enterprise, which can be defined by revenue or number of employees. They may only focus in certain industries. And then we get that commitment, and we're going to go out, and our job if we need 12 people to attend, we know we need to get 25 to register, and then we'll run that event for an hour. So we want to see that as something that is monetized, and we only run it if we will get the sponsor tied to it.
Great, thank you, Brian. One more question for you, Eric. You talked about engaging your customers and helping them to be able to get all sorts of leads and some of the important things that their companies are struggling as well. Can you just elaborate a little bit more about how you're engaging your customers and making sure that they get their needs met?
Yeah, the marketing partners, is that side of the customer base?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, really that's where the sales training is coming in right now. It's two-part. It's focusing on trying to, while our sales team has time, make sure that they understand our solutions better than ever so that they can have a better conversation about that and ask the right questions so that they are truly a marketing partner. So that's that side. But then we're also using sales training to, from a company-wide standpoint, say, this is how we want to communicate with our clients right now. So these are the types of things that you want to be saying. Here's the tone that you want to have. Now we're taking it to the point of, like, again, this week, that publisher email will go out with a picture and a signature from every publisher, and then we'll be able to see the engagement with that email and follow up from there. The follow-up from there will be the salespeople. So we're actually crafting some script templates. And this may sound a little big brother, but it's not necessarily saying you have to use this. It's arming our sales team and saying, this is the tone we want to take with the follow-up when you get this type of engagement. So sure, personalize it. You don't want it to come across and use words that you wouldn't necessarily use. But at the same time, I feel like in this time of crisis, we're really trying to just make sure we're consistent with the way that we're communicating things and the way that we're going to market, instead of running the risk of having someone do something dumb. I want them to at least have been warned that here's the tone to take, here's the way to communicate, instead of having someone super aggressive just go out there and all of a sudden ruin a relationship with a client, because when the client says we need to postpone, they're getting up in arms. And yeah, you want to guide them through that and see if you can have a conversation about it. But at some point, they're going to postpone, and you better accept that. And we want to make sure they understand that that's okay. We want the long-term relationship to be intact. So that's really it. It's more communication at this point than anything. Communication and training. That's the focus of making sure that we're having the right conversations. And then again, I can't overstate customer success. That if you're not doing that, and when we say customer success, it's really evolved over the last couple of years. It's almost solutions engineer is more where they lean. Customer success sounds a lot nicer from a customer standpoint. They are there to be the experts on what we do and help guide the conversation and be on the calls with our sales team, who have the relationships and get the appointment set, basically.
Great, thank you very much. We have another question of how do you communicate to attendee prospects for an event that has been postponed to late July or August? How do you address that you understand the hesitation that still encourage registration? So Eric and Brian, thoughts on that?
Brian, you want to go first, and then I'll fill in.
You got it. So the communication, we've got a sort of defined cadence on how we've been reaching out to the audience, how we've been understanding pre-approved language. I'm sure everyone, or we're obviously had to go through and make sure all our language was pre-approved. Now that we're through it and we announced the postponed dates, I think from a communication perspective, we are honest about understanding the challenges. That's where our sales team, because we have attendee sales for all of our conference-based events. And our attendee salespeople are the ones who are calling, our customer service reps supporting those businesses, understanding what they're going through, high empathy levels in the communication as well. We understand these are trying times, and these are times where getting together and learning from your peers and trying to get that engagement again is great. Now, if that doesn't work in our communications, we're going to include information about the option of a virtual component to it. While we understand it's going to be difficult possibly to travel for you, here are the options as well that you have if you don't want to travel. So we're going to balance that. In some markets, the communication will be more around, the postponement. Here are the new dates. We hope you can attend, understanding what's going on in the market. In other markets, we're going to do that, have a little more about it with the virtual, and then we're going to really rely heavily on sales for that one-to-one touch to engage people, because that to us is a critical piece of this, especially right now.
Yeah, same thing. Communication is key with this. So we're doing the assumed close, I guess, method, which I think most of us are, which is the event's been postponed. We look forward to seeing you. And then we kind of have an escalation path from there based on the feedback. And again, we have scripts that we've given out to the various people. The one thing that I was very big on, and we did this, if you have someone who has a name in that industry, like for our government fleet event, I sent out personal emails to every single one of our exhibitors, and I had our editor send out personal emails. It was a script, but could personalize it to every single registered attendee so that it came from a person who they knew in the industry instead of just a corporate-wide announcement. We did the corporate announcements in the email newsletters and things like that as well, but I wanted them to have like a personal touch to it. So we actually did those personal emails before we sent out the official announcements and said, hey, we're giving you a heads up. So that was a big part of it. The next thing is, as soon as we have the event date and locked in and everything secured, we're going to go ahead and do like a virtual town hall with our exhibitors separately from our attendees. And we'll do basically what we're doing now. We'll take questions, we'll present what's going on, understand the things that we're going to be doing from a retention standpoint. If you retain, if you stay on, here's what the benefits are to you. So I think those virtual roundtables, anything we can do to have a personal touch right now gives us a benefit versus just some cold impersonal event.
Great, thank you very much. We have one more question. Can you describe the messaging of publishers' letters and how you work with that?
Yeah, I mean, basically it was a customer success team and I gathered messaging that we liked that had been sent out that we were seeing all over the place. We didn't want to just send out the, hey, we're here for you and we've all started working from home and guess what? Our computers and phones work from home, so we're here for you still. We wanted something that was at the right time, very empathetic. What I can do is I'll show you what we've crafted. And we went to the publishers then and said, if you have any strong feelings, we were very specific with the wording. If you have strong feelings, let us know if you don't like something in this. And none of them did. They were all accepting. And so we're moving ahead with it. And that's basically where it came from. It came from customer success and myself just saying, this is the message we want to go to market with. So if anyone wants to email me afterward, you can get my email on Bobbit's website. It's eric.beerley@bobbit.com. You can get it from Kathy. Email me. I'll forward you over that letter if you want to just steal some ideas from it. Unless you compete with us, then you can't use it.
Brian, you want to address that question?
Honestly, I think that really does cover so much of it. I don't have anything more to add on that one.
Okay, terrific. Well, I want to thank their panelists, Eric Burley and Brian Cuthbert, who did an excellent job of being able to share some of the things that are happening in our industry. It's a difficult time for everyone, and we really appreciate your time in coming to the webinar, and also especially Eric and Brian for contributing. And we also thank MagHub for their technology and for making everything go smoothly. And I will email you, as Eric and Brian suggested, Eric and Brian's phone number and email in case you have more questions. So that ends our webinar today. Thank you again for Eric and Brian for your excellent insights. I think everyone appreciates it. It's difficult times, and Eric and Brian are doing a great job to adapt. So everyone have a good day, and thanks again for joining us.